There's a little garage on a small town street. I like to meet my friends there every week, and I know we'll talk about some facts and things, history and science and some crazy shit. Talking it out with Alan, Ben, and Nick, and I know that it's gonna be a weird-ass show. Ooh, insanity abounds. Ooh, the world is spinning round. Now we're gonna break it down.
Today, we are talking about a great man.
For a given value of great.
Just remember, great means of magnitude. Does not mean good. Today we are talking about Mr. Lafayette Ronald Hubbard, better known as L. Ron Hubbard. A prolific sci-fi writer, a sailor, glider, a Blackfoot blood brother if you listen to what he says, founder of a cult. The list goes on, and, well, today we're going to go through that list. I suppose we should start with, do we have any questions, gentlemen, before we jump into this massive shitstorm?
Well, we already covered our biggest lack of knowledge, which was the fact that neither of us knew that his first name was, what was it, Lafayette?
Lafayette.
Yeah.
Personally, I thought his name was L. Ron.
Yeah, no, I thought
Like,
it was too.
Single word
Yeah.
name.
Yeah, no, well, you hear it said that way so often. It's because that was, a pen name. He also used a couple of different pseudonyms. Some of them actually weren't bad. Ruger Winchester Colt.
Really?
Yes, that was a pen name he used.
Ruger Winchester Colt.
Just 3 guns. That's the thing he did. You have to realize he wrote
fair,
sci-fi and like shitty cowboy stories for like 5 cents a word, and would write these massively long stories, fucking rapid fire. That's what he's remembered for. Like, he's not a good sci-fi writer. He just put out more than anyone else, and I can say that safely without having hard numbers. He wrote more than anyone else. Our tale starts in 1911. When Lafayette Ronald Hubbard was born. Now, things were, pretty normal for him at first. Dad was a military man, mother was a housewife, grandfather had a ridiculous amount of money from owning a small oil company. So, he really didn't want for much. Grew up spending summers in Montana with his grandfather on a ranch that he claimed was, 3 times the size of Montana based on the square footage he describes, where he claimed to be brothers of the Blackfoot Indians, where he learned lumberjack fighting skills from his grandfather, where he even panned for gold for a brief period in his early teen years. Truly a cornucopia of adventure for young Mr. L. Ron Hubbard.
And how much of that is based on any amount of truth?
His grandfather did have a ranch in Montana. The Blackfeet Indians don't have blood brothers. That's a Hollywood thing. Lumberjack fighting skills, as far as I know, aren't a thing. I mean, unless there's like a new like mixed martial art that I'm just blissfully unaware of.
I don't know. I think it would be pretty awesome to see a couple of lumberjacks with like mad axe swinging skills and stuff, just going at
just
each
flying
other.
hatchet style.
Yeah. They use the hatchet strike technique.
Everybody's worried about ninjas. Nah, man, lumberjacks. They just descend from the trees.
No, man, they drop the trees on you.
It's just a flurry of movement and flannel followed by death.
Lethal log rolling.
Now, he wasn't in school terribly long at that point because shortly thereafter, his family took a trip to China, which he got to see some of the more interesting landmarks of the world when you get right down to it. Beijing, the Great Wall, like, cool shit. He was tremendously bored by the Great Wall. We have, like, his diaries at the time. We have, like, his diaries from, like, when he was on this trip. Well, Scientology does, and, fucking weirdos. And according to him, he thought the Great Wall was stupid and boring, and they should turn it into a roller coaster.
A roller coaster.
Yeah, no, child L. Ron Hubbard's kind of adorable, isn't he? You kind of want to hang out with this little shit. He's gonna tell you some stories.
That's actually pretty awesome. I would totally ride a roller coaster like that. I'd ride the shit out of that roller coaster.
I believe there is a zoo at one end of the wall. I believe there is a zoo now.
Cool. Really?
Yeah. I want to say they've got like 12 bears in an enclosure that's not big enough for 12 bears.
Well, that's kind of standard.
China.
Yeah.
I was going to say zookeeping, but yeah.
Yeah, Detroit Zoo ain't that bad.
A lot of the American zoos are a whole lot better than they used to be, but they went through some pretty serious regulation and overhauls back, 50, 60 years ago that changed that. And that's getting off topic. Back to L. Ron.
So other than recommending modifications to landmarks, what else are you doing in China?
Well, I'm glad you asked about that, because according to him, in his travels in China, he met two rather fascinating individuals, and I'll save the better one for last. One was a Hindu man who could hypnotize cats. I don't know what advantage that serves.
What advantage couldn't it serve? I mean, here is a man who could literally herd cats. You know how many musicians would die for that ability?
And you realize Sig would simply appear on a hilltop with blue face paint, leading just a legion of lions and tigers and bears.
Oh,
the bears were just like, that's a damn charismatic cat. They were like, we're in. But now the Hindu man, that doesn't really go anywhere, but, it lets him claim that he knew a Hindu mystic.
Yeah.
The other one that's far more interesting is a Chinese musician who claimed to be a descendant of a mystic who served in the court of Kublai Khan.
Huh.
Interesting if true.
It's definitely not.
Yeah. Yeah.
It definitely is
well,
not.
all right. Well, being a descendant of Kublai Khan, that's totally plausible. Given the way that
Oh my god! I forgot one.
What?
I forgot one. And this may actually genuinely be the best one of all. Now that I'm really thinking about. Because while they were in Asia, they ended up going into India as well. That how vacations used to be. You went on fucking tour. You didn't go to a place. You went to 12 and you were gone all year. But they ended up in India, and he claimed to have stayed with a bandit tribe in the mountains and befriended them because they were genuinely amazed by his lifestyle and outlook. He cannot be older than like 7, 8 years old at this point. He cannot be.
Are they impressed with how he played with his toys? What?
I have no fucking clue. This is the line from the church. I'm trying to set the record straight here.
Maybe they all
definitely didn't meet any of these people.
Maybe they all just liked having a little boy around. If these are bandits, I mean.
As much as you would think L. Ron would be a perv, I couldn't find any accusations of like sexual shit against it, at least not credible.
Okay.
Like there's
a
couple
surprising with the whole.
There's a couple claims about little boys, but that's like during the Sea Org days, and there were families there. Some of them had small children. That was more just a case of horrific abuse. There was nothing sexual going on.
Okay.
Like I can say a lot of awful things about L. Ron Hubbard. Not a sex creep. Yeah, I mean that's one of the few nice things I will say about this man.
So after China and India.
After China and India, he spent a fair amount of time bouncing around Europe, back and forth to America for his formative years before college. As a young man, traveling around is where he really found his love of writing, and we've got all kinds of stuff from this time when he was writing just little short snippets, nothing like too amazing.
This was when he was starting to break into the science fiction stuff, right?
Actually, kind of before that.
What did he do before the science fiction?
He started with things more like cowboy and Indian type shit, like stuff that's a little more grounded in reality. Like
that would actually make sense growing up in the 19-teens.
When he was a young man, traveling, he wrote a bunch of stuff, or at the very least jotted down a lot of ideas for a story. He didn't get a lot of stories out, but he did get a lot of ideas for stories on paper. It's shit like, Nice guy from America on tour in Paris meets a nice woman there, starts staying with her until the society folks disapprove of the arrangement, goes back to America for a long-awaited inheritance. It's like this basic idea of a romance story, but it's never expanded on. And what's real funny is we have an example of him trying to write a sex scene from this point in time, and I believe this was. I believe this was the mid to late 1920s when he did this.
Okay, so he's a teenager.
Yeah.
Not experienced, but the hormones are going.
Undersexed but overstimulated. And it's one of those things. At that point in history, by that age, either you knew nothing or you knew everything. And it's pretty clear which side of the line he was on.
Yeah.
Like, he knew he was supposed to objectify women. He just didn't know how. I mean, the poor bastard. But we have one example of him trying to write a sex scene, but unfortunately, we cannot tell what the fuck he wrote because he'd get like a sentence or two in and then furiously scratch it out because it was just garbage. So we have no idea what young L. Ron Hubbard's idea of sex was.
Probably better that way.
Well, the funny thing is, later on, he does learn to fuck.
I
It
would
is
imagine
documented.
so.
He
It's
definitely
something
knows how to
most-
fuck.
It's something most men end up with at some point or another.
Well, no,
Women too.
later on, talking to like his first wife, who fucking hates him for a variety of reasons. She's like, I wasn't bad at fucking. I knew how to sling some dick. But that
there had to be something to back up
that gives you a
charisma.
decent taste of young L. Ron. There's more I can go into, but it's getting into family relations, and it just gets tedious. It doesn't add. In 1932, he enrolled at George Washington University. He was not there long. He majored in structural engineering and hated it. According to him, though, he took one of the nation's very first nuclear physics courses offered at the school and a minor in inorganic chemistry. Well, we knew he took some chemistry classes, but nuclear physics would not be offered there for quite some time. It is a program available at the university, just not during
at the
any
time
of the
that
time
he
he was
was there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, not even remotely close. But Hubbard rode that lie for years, claiming that he was a nuclear physicist. He was not.
Because he took a class.
Oh yeah, no. There are some L. Ron Hubbard quotes that are just fucking magical, such as, "What? I'm practically a doctor." Like that, I think that's the
That'll
best
hold
one.
up.
Oh yeah, no, like. During this time is the first time he started getting published, like, seriously. It was his school paper and, like, sportsman magazines talking about gliding. He did this for about 3 years. Based on, him writing about gliding for 3 years, how long do you think he was a glider pilot for?
The number's either very high or very low.
Well,
I know which side I'm guessing
Well, I
on.
mean, 3 years. I mean, that's not a huge length of time. How long would you say?
Well, in
licensed
proportion
for?
to his life and the amount of it that he theoretically could have been, because, I mean, this is in college. He's in his early to mid-20s tops. So
he's like
I mean,
21, 22 in here.
on the high side, we're looking, he may have been doing this for 5 or 6 years. On the low side,
On the low side, he may have tried doing it once, failed miserably, and then invented an entire 3 years of
I
doing
can
it.
stories
I
from
can
the
safely
one
say
experience.
that he had an active license for about a year because that's how long they last, and then he just never paid the fee to reinstate it. But from a year of gliding, and by all accounts, he was a decent glider pilot. Not great, he wasn't like setting records or anything, but he wasn't bad at it. He could make it do what he wanted to do. He turned that into 3 years worth of harrowing stories about going coast to coast in a glider, about having to bail out of a crash at the last second, about how he almost slammed into a barn but righted at the last second. No, and for the record, he did slam into a fucking barn. That happened. I like to think that was the last time anyone let him near a glider, because he was renting that shit. It wasn't his glider. Fucker couldn't afford the license. He's buying an almost plane. Now, around this time, we're sitting around 1933. L. Ron Hubbard has dropped out of school, but it's okay. It's okay. He has met the love of the next roughly decade and a half of his life.
Ah, this is his first wife.
Yes, his
Have
first wife.
we done the cult yet? Has that
The
happened?
cult has not even begun yet.
The one he was part of, not
Oh,
any
no,
of
no,
the
no,
ones
no,
he's
no, no,
led.
no. We are
Okay.
not even.
Okay.
We are so far off from Pasadena.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Sorry, I wasn't sure exactly where that fell in his timeline. So his first wife.
Actually, I fucked up timing on here because of how I had shit listed. Okay. Immediately after dropping out of school, what do you think L. Ron Hubbard did? Immediately after dropping out of school.
Well-
When you guys dropped out of school, what did you do?
Mostly sat around and drank.
I mostly smoked pot.
Mostly sat around watching television.
Yeah.
Very normal.
L. Ron Hubbard organized an expedition to search out pirate strongholds in search of lost gold.
Oh, wait. Is this the one where he got a bunch of other college guys to go be
Yep.
pirates and search for gold?
Yep, this is 1932.
Yes.
The
Bought himself a
Depression
boat.
is in its most depressing of periods.
Well, which means any little bit of hope to...
Oh, yeah.
Anything to get away from the Depression. I can see how he managed to get a crew together.
Oh, yeah, no, and the way he sold this, too, was he had claimed that the exclusive film rights for whatever value film of college students dressed as pirates on a sailboat in the Caribbean possesses, that it was already set up to be bought by various movie studios, 20th Century Fox, Universal, and that the photographs had already been agreed to be sold to
Did
news agencies such as the New York Times.
any of that actually survive?
Oh,
to
the
this
footage?
day?
Oh, I'm sure I could find footage of this. But there absolutely was no deal with anyone to pay them for any of this. This was just L. Ron Hubbard trying to get a bunch of dudes to go down south with him and look for gold and cosplay pirate. Now, they only...
Okay, I'm sure. I mean, boating ain't easy. He's got a dad.
Sailing.
I'm not a boater.
You're clearly not a sailor.
Yeah, that. Me and water don't get along very well. Either
You ever
way,
seen such a disgusting pile of semen?
Either way, Hubbard having... I'm trying to stay on topic here. Come on. Hubbard having done a lot of traveling and his dad in the military, you said Navy, he would know that sailing is no easy feat. He must have gathered people who had skills and talents applicable to running his boat.
They had one experienced sailor. The rest was a crew of amateur gentlemen rovers assembled from anyone who basically responded to his open casting call. He put out an ad accompanied by a letter that was undoubtedly fucking written by him, but it was supposed to be like, some kind of like press release, Windjammer days refuse to die the death and romance is still alive. Come be a pirate and sail with us. And just stupidity. I really have to wonder what any of these people were thinking.
It was the Depression.
Yeah.
Well,
Anything's got to
if
be
they
better than
offered him-
this.
well, I would like to
Possibility
point
of
out,
money
I
in
hope-
any way, shape, or form.
I do believe we know.
He gave them hope.
I do
even if
believe
it
we
was
know
only
what they were
briefly.
thinking, though, once they made their first stop after leaving port, because most of them left. Most of them got off literally the first time the boat stopped, after it was delayed for 2 weeks first setting out because they didn't have any of the fucking supplies they needed. And then even after that, it came back something like a month early because they were completely out of money and material. Massive failure. L. Ron Hubbard tells the story like, oh no, we had a grand time and everyone got laid. No, we went down there. We didn't find any gold, but, we were capably entertained by the dark-eyed senoritas. Sure, Ron. Sure. Your ginger ass got laid in South America. I believe that. How much did you pay?
Well, they came back with no money, so I'm guessing all of it.
True. And that
They went
that
down
those-
south whoring.
Well, those South American booty calls couldn't have been that great because when he came back, He met the love of the next 14 years of his life, give or take. Give or take. I mean, there's some overlap with his second wife in here, but we'll get to that. I know. His first wife really lucked out. Basically, she got married, pumped out 2 kids, saw that he was kind of crazy, moved into a separate house, and they just sort of drifted away.
And got out clean.
Yeah, no. Honestly, they're the luckiest people in the L. Ron Hubbard story because they just exit. He abandons those kids. He abandons that wife,
And never goes back for any of them.
Pretty much. He lets his parents pay for them and house them in one of their homes for a few years while he's out gallivanting. Because he's estranged from his first wife for like a good 3-4 years when he starts dating his second wife. To the point that when he actually gets married to his second wife, he's still married to the first. There's a full year of overlap.
Yeah, someone didn't check the records very close down at the department.
Well, okay, in all fairness, the second marriage was in 46. No one was really going to check that. There wasn't a good expedient way to do it. So you just cross state lines.
True, it's
no
paper.
one's calling the adjacent states
It's
or
all
even the
paper
opposite
trail
coast.
then.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
like you would have to specifically be getting looked for. Polygamy used to be easier. What can I say? I'm sure the Mormons are pissed.
Oh, God, that does technically make him a polygamist, even if it was only for like a year.
Oh, yeah.
Never even thought about that.
Now, his first wife gets to enjoy the start of his career writing pulp fiction. In the mid-30s, pulp fiction hits the scene. Around 33, 34 is a real game changer. And L. Ron Hubbard, a man capable of machine gun lying and equal rapidity in type, man, that is a man built for the world of pulp fiction.
Oh, yeah, no. Pulp's allowed a whole lot of writers to come to the fore, where before they didn't really have much of a way to get their stories out to the masses. Pulp writing made it so easy to get your stories out to everyone.
Pulp magazines were basically a novel's worth of material every month or every week. If you could just crank out
there
stories...
were some that could crank out stories and would put out one a week or something like that.
Isaac Asimov was big in this period. H.P. Lovecraft was big in this period. And L. Ron Hubbard was absolutely prolific. There were actually stories of head editors for magazines showing up at L. Ron Hubbard's hotel suite with cover art, waiting outside for him to write a story that went with it.
Dang. Yeah, he could just fire off a story because he'd look at the art and go, okay, I can make up a story about this. Bam.
Well, according to L. Ron Hubbard, he had about 7 million words published by the time he was enlisted for World War II. He didn't. There's no fucking way. But he did probably have about 2 million words published. No fucking slouch. It is time for me to point out I have read exactly 0 of L. Ron Hubbard's Pulp Fiction, and that is because, by all accounts I've ever heard, it's not very good.
I did go looking since we did the first one, and I've looked at a couple of his works, but yeah, it's really rough.
Yeah, a man who never edits anything and never checks his own work. Like, I'm scared of the continuity errors, and I'm, viewing it 10 feet off.
You wouldn't be able to put up with one of his stories.
Yeah.
You're a continuity person. You would not be able to deal with a lot of his work.
Yeah, but basically from about 34 on, L. Ron Hubbard is a
certainly
staple
nothing I looked at
in the world of pulp fiction. In 37, he releases his first novel. I don't care what the title is because it doesn't matter. It's garbage. He got a novel out. He got a whole novel to himself, which he'll do again later, much to everyone's chagrin. In 1938, he writes what is arguably the most powerful book ever written. And shockingly, it is not part of the Scientology canon. It's too dangerous. It's too powerful. Tell me, have either of you gentlemen ever heard of Excalibur?
The sword.
No, not that pussy stick embedded in some fucking rock. No. The manuscript written by the living god L. Ron Hubbard about self-determination and the urge to live, which will banish all fear from the human heart, driving you to madness and suicide. God!
Nope, never heard of it.
Not a word.
Well, he wrote that in 1938. He shopped it around for a few years, and according to...
I assume that's the line the church gives about it.
They say that he wrote it. They say that he found it to be too dangerous for mass consumption. There are theories, and there's no way to tell because it's only, high-ranking Scientologists that would have access to this. Supposedly, there's copies of the manuscript that circulate around within the church.
But only the upper echelon.
Like Tom Cruise and John Travolta have a 2-person book club where they talk about it. Like that's the best I can give you on that. But basically, he wrote a book so good it drove people to kill themselves. Like he would tell stories about he would go into an editor's office. They would have
Take
one
that
of their
Catcher in the Rye.
Right. They would have this one makes you kill yourself. Screw
Seems
John
like it's
Lennon. Go for you.
That could just mean it's so horribly bad you couldn't live with yourself after experiencing the amount of suck within it.
Well, the thing that always gets me, let me finish what I was on here. He's in an editor's office. One of the readers comes in, the sample reader people comes in, tosses the manuscript on the desk, promptly walks over to the window, throws himself out of it. Not a word, not a glance, just I read it and I'm done. And the whole point of this book is survival, the existential need of survival.
Yeah, sounds like you got it wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure. I mean, there's the applications of this thing. If we just could have gotten a copy of Excalibur into Hitler's hands. I mean, unless, of course, it drove Hitler to go clear, at which point we'd all be speaking strudel, but... Okay, dark joke did not land. Note to self. There's no physical proof that Excalibur exists, but he talked about it for fucking years. A few people claim it exists, they read an early copy.
All upper...
And that it's bad. No, people back in the day, in the 50s, thumbing through it, just it's not good. It's really ham-fisted.
Well, I'm sure it matches all of his other writing and everything else, which is very rough.
Yeah.
But the writing that encompasses because this clearly seems to be a theoretical idea style book. It's if the ideas
it's supposed to be life philosophy.
There we go, philosophy. But someone can present a philosophy wrapped in poorly written words, and it can still be a decent philosophy. I mean, look at any other church out there.
I'm about to butcher the quote, but this is from a mental patient that someone else quoted in a Reddit thread. Madness is nature's dissatisfaction with genius.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a good quote, but it was delivered by someone who writes on their walls with their own shit. So nature was pretty dissatisfied with his genius.
Anyways,
so after penning Excalibur, after 7 years of a prolific writing career, when it's time for you to take a break, what would you do, Alan?
After writing a novel?
After writing a successful novel, after 7 years as a successful pulp author, after penning your magnus opus manuscript, Excalibur. After all that, what do you do to celebrate?
Go on a drinking bender, probably.
I feel that's implied the whole way through. I really do. I haven't found anything overtly saying, yeah, raging alcoholic. I just have a feeling.
Get a dog, buy a lake house, sit in the sun.
Yeah, L. Ron Hubbard joined the Explorers Club and charted a course to the North Pole. Didn't
Now,
quite make it to the North Pole, just ended up in Alaska.
Explorers Club is the one they make fun of early on in one of the early South Park
Yes,
seasons.
it's a
with
real
the-
thing. It's a real fucking thing.
How crazy is the actual real
the
Adventures Club?
well, no, the real Explorers
Because I know
Club,
very little
no,
about
the
real
Explorers Club. No, the
Explorers
Explorers Club is cool as shit, and I would actually love to be a member. Except I'd have to go awful places, and I don't want to do that. But like,
You don't really want to explore?
I'd like to explore somewhere with central air.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't think they hand out flags for those expeditions, but yeah, no, like they actually like serve a valid purpose even today. Like they actually like map shipping lanes, and like as tidal levels have risen and shifted, like they actually keep track of like where things are. Like melting icebergs and shit, they track them because like it's the great adventure that's before us now, and it's kind of their whole shtick. But somehow L. Ron Hubbard did con his way into this organization. And I do have to say, it's an illustrious organization. As much as I'm trash-talking L. Ron Hubbard throughout all of this, respect for people sailing, flying, exploring under this banner. They fuel the modern scientific
The organization
world.
itself is good people.
They've been fueling
part of it.
science for like a century now.
Science!
Like that's noble. That as we talk about one of the deepest pits of human shit that exist. Yeah, no.
Sorry.
But in any case, while he didn't actually make it all the way to the North Pole, Arctic Circle, any of that fun stuff, he did actually manage to plot some better routes in through Alaska, in through the area he was in, but due to mechanical issues, most of his time was spent in harbor at a radio shop, just broadcasting insanity into the Alaskan wilderness.
Wait. He went out in the middle of Alaska, set up a
No.
radio station.
No. Someone else did that,
Oh,
and then
okay.
L. Ron Hubbard showed up because his boat wasn't working, and L. Ron Hubbard's not good at many things.
And he somehow
Boat maintenance is very high on the list of shit he is bad at.
And he somehow talked these people into letting him on the airwaves.
Oh, he is very persuasive.
Oh, well,
he is very
clearly
persuasive.
he's-
See, and that's one of the things too. Like people always knew he was full of shit. There was never a question of that. Like he used to sit around and bullshit with other pulp writers. He'd be telling stories about how, well, no, I barnstormed in Europe with my acrobatics act for such and such years, and then no, I was a fisherman out in Spain for such and such years, and no, I was prospecting for gold for such and such years. And one of the other writers in the room would just be sitting in the corner with a pad of paper, and when he's done, so Ron, you're 86, huh? Well, based on all this shit, you're 86, right? Like,
No, I was just doing them all at the same time.
oh yeah, no. Everyone always knew he was full of shit, but like,
Yeah.
he had good stories. Like, people love a good bullshit artist.
Now, is this still during his first wife?
For the time being, yes.
Okay.
His first wife actually lasts through his military career, and then shortly after his military career is when he meets his second wife.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. Well, that's just it.
Because that's the...
Up
or
next
are
in
we-
1941.
I think we were talking about his radio...
There's
everything.
nothing to say. He dicked
Oh,
around in
okay.
Alaska, not actually performing the goal he was sent up there to do, but because he provided some valuable scientific data about ocean currents, it was deemed a success.
Oh, okay.
I
I thought there'd be more to it than that when you said he was on a radio station.
Oh no! Just broadcasting the same crazy shit he always was, and
his stories or scientific?
at this point,
Kinda
at this
crap.
point, it was by and large still his stories with sort of like this parable idea to it. Take these nuggets of wisdom from it. In a way, he was kind of like a pop philosopher today.
Okay.
But that change really doesn't happen until after the war. But this is also the point in time where he starts kicking around the idea of, it's real nice making 5 cents a word and all, but if I want to make real buck, I'd start a religion. which was not as crazy of an idea at the time as it is now. New sciences and new religious sects were popping up all the time, and most were actually pretty harmless.
Well, and I'm sure he looked at the way Mormonism was founded as kind of a how-to.
Oh, absolutely not. He never looked at anyone else's work and was like, that's a good idea. That would require some level of self-awareness outside of his narcissism, and no.
Okay.
No, that is not L. Ron Hubbard. L. Ron Hubbard was friends with Isaac Asimov. Do you honestly think that helped his writing at all?
I enjoy Asimov.
I do too, and my point is I'd be a better writer if I had known Asimov because he would have pushed me to new heights by making me ask questions I wouldn't have before. L. Ron Hubbard's so fucking narcissistic and self-absorbed that even being touched by one of the true greats did nothing.
Oh, okay. I see where you're
Or
going
it's
with
more
it.
proof of his divinity.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the first one.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so he actually starts considering creating the religion fairly early. Because he's still, a decade or two out from actually forming the church? I want to say the church was one of his later
That's where things
life.
get hazy. Because there's arguments you can make
that was
for
after
as
the
to
whole Sea
where
Org
the
thing.
church begins. You can say the church begins with Dianetics, which he comes out with shortly after the war.
Well, that was a book he published, right?
It was an article in a Pulp Fiction magazine announcing his new science that he was unveiling, the science of Dianetics, which also has a lot to do with like basic psychotherapy theory. Now, anyone paying close attention to the timeline here knows that in the 1930s, some shit happened.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of it. And he happened to end up in the bit of it that was in the Pacific.
Pearl Harbor?
No. He was in the Navy.
Wrong war.
No, Pearl Harbor's World War II.
Right war. Although wrong decade. If we're talking about the Pacific War, America's involvement, that would be the 40s. But your point is taken,
I
though.
apologize, listeners. I'm an idiot. I was simply referencing the fact that World War II
It
was on.
started in 39, so you're not entirely incorrect. Or if you're talking about the Japanese War, that started in 37 or 34, depending on how your views on that. But that's an entirely different
I thought
question.
the war in Europe started 36.
The war in Europe started in 39, unless you're talking about the Spanish Civil War, which started in 36. I want to say 36.
Proving that you're the
quote me on
smart
that.
one for the millionth
That
fucking
It's either
time.
36 or
entire
34.
time
I think it was
period
36.
full of everybody kind of fighting each other until it broke out into a massive thing again. So,
I'm almost positive it's
History
36.
sucks.
In any
Anyways,
case, L. Ron Hubbard in the Pacific. Would anyone like to take a guess at what he did?
oh geez, in the Navy?
In
He's
the Navy,
Um,
where he sailed the ocean blue.
you've already stated before that he worked as a helmsman for other things, so I'm going to guess he was somewhere near the bridge of the ship.
He was put in command of a single ship. Now, unless I have my labelings here wrong, I believe it was a corvette, which, to my understanding, is the small sub-hunters.
if it's Sub Hunter, it's probably a destroyer.
It was like a PT boat.
A PT boat, a torpedo boat.
Basically.
Like three,
To
four
my
guys.
understanding, it's before that designation, but he had like a total of 8 guys under his command.
Then that's like a PT boat or something.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
It was a little thing. According to him, though, he had.
How many million subs did he take out?
Oh no, we'll get to his sub count later. That's a different story.
Well, PT boats didn't go after subs, but
he was
That's to my- that's my
he was
knowledge,
he was
but-
in a sub hunter. That is
a sub hunter.
I've clearly got my designations wrong, but they were
And I don't know.
They were
enough
looking
about
for-
Navy vehicles.
they were
to
looking for
pipe
Japanese
in.
subs.
They tended to hub subs. They didn't hub subs. I can't
Hunt
talk.
subs?
Hunt subs. Thank you. With
No,
using
instead they were after the
destroyers with
bombs.
depth charges, not torpedoes.
Well,
But
we will get to that down the line. Actually, you said destroyer.
destroyer. Is
Okay,
the sub hunter. That's most common.
the next part of this clicks a bit more.
Though that's got a much bigger crew than what you indicated. But
I know it was a small ass boat.
It
may
might be
have
it
just
might be
been
a
an old
designation none of us are
small-
familiar with.
Yeah,
An
I'm.
oddball type thing, but
No
Welcome
idea.
to the confusion.
yeah.
I'm sorry, folks. I'm a hack.
Well, to be fair, only one of us is ever truly informed.
True. But the way he got put in charge of this boat was by lying during basic training after deployment. Not like his basic block, but like when they actually gave him a job and it's like, learn this shit fast. He claimed that he had already served on a destroyer. And he managed to bullshit his way through this so effectively that the instructors vouched for him, so they gave him a boat. Taking wagers on whether this will end well?
Well, I was going to say, in the military, you can go a long way with a little bit of chutzpah.
Now, there are two incidents that led to L. Ron Hubbard losing command of said vessel.
Did one of them involve friendly fire?
Sort of. We'll start with that one, even though chronologically it comes second. They were somewhere off the coast of Mexico, and there was this little rock island, fucking nothing, impossible to inhabit, but it was considered Mexican territory. L. Ron Hubbard decided to shell the thing, which he called...
Did he give a reason
Yeah, sort of.
why he decided to do this?
He said it was a it wasn't approved, not ordered. I'm forgetting the fucking military term, but basically he said it was an unimproved live fire exercise. The Mexican government viewed it as an attack on sovereign territory.
As they should.
Yeah, that's the one that really cost him his command. The more interesting of the incidents that cost him his naval career was he felt that the readings on the sonar and everything were depicting 2 Japanese subs in the water he was patrolling. So what does L. Ron Hubbard do? He springs into action because that's the type of man he is. He instantly calls in support and begins dropping as many depth charges as he can. It's important to
Did he
note...
blow up a whale?
Oh, that would almost be funnier. Almost. Like, it would be so much sadder, but it would almost be funnier. 2 other boats show up to support him. The same class of vessel, it's just more depth
Submarine
charges in the water.
chasers. I checked it. That's just what they're
Thank
called.
you.
Submarine chasers.
Thank you. See, again,
From what I looked at, they're smaller than destroyers, but bigger than a PT boat.
yeah, but you see what
Yeah.
I mean. It's not a big craft by
No,
any means.
no.
But the other 2 ships, receiving the exact same data on their instruments, decide not to drop a single depth charge.
Because he had already laid all the depth charges, or because there was absolutely nothing there?
Oh, no. There was definitely some on the instruments. They determined it to be an iron ore deposit messing with the electronics. Now, L. Ron Hubbard claimed to be a prospector as a young man and through his college years. And he did pan for gold for a while. Never fucking found it. But he did pan for gold for a while.
I've panned for gold when I went out west. It's not complicated. and
He
you don't
spent
need a
spent
whole
like
lot
2 years looking for gold and came up with nada. I feel that takes a special kind of stupid.
or determination.
Well, it's definitely a special kind of stupid because a prospector didn't understand an ore deposit.
Yeah.
To this day, the Church of Scientology says that he sunk 2 Japanese subs.
In the same incident?
Yeah.
That he found 2 Japanese
Yes.
subs and sunk both of them?
Yes.
Okay, if there were 2 Japanese subs up against one of these little pissant things, at the very least, he would have been sunk by one of the other Japanese subs.
He just bombed the
makes
shit
no
out of the
military
ocean.
sense.
That's
bombed
really
the
all he
shit
did.
out of an ore
Which for the
deposit.
record, I don't think the Navy's a fan of. I'm pretty sure the Navy loves the ocean and doesn't want to bomb it. I'm pretty sure the ocean is the Navy's favorite thing. But just to cap off the military service, he lost command of his ship after those two incidents. They did not boot him out. He did serve until the end of the war. At some point, he got sent home for some minor deferment reason. He claims to have been the first injured and sent home in the Pacific.
Pretty
Okay.
sure
Yeah.
that's not true.
Really?
Oh, it definitely isn't. Timelines don't fucking work
Yeah.
for what he claims. But that said, he was not in command of that boat very long. He did this shit quick. L. Ron Hubbard lived. This is a man who went from place to place and did what he wanted. For the next part of our journey, we must go to a far-off land. A land known as Pasadena. Yeah, you know.
Hello, lady from Pasadena.
Yeah, you know, yuppies, rolling hills,
Yeah.
California, all that shit. Yeah, no, we're going there because of the Ordo Templi Orientis.
If you're not fluent in Latin, that would be the Order of the Oriental Temple.
The important thing to know is it's a black magic sex cult. That's
Yep.
really the important thing to know. Alan, would you ever join a black magic sex cult?
That would be no.
What if there were some really hot bitches there? That just put out
That would again
constantly.
be no.
I'm pretty sure it's the black magic portion.
Yeah.
Also the cult portion. I mean, if it was just sex, I
Yeah,
mean, I
but it
think
was a
we'd all be in,
California
but
cult. I mean, lowercase c.
Admittedly, at that time period, California seemed to have a lot of them.
Yeah, no, run by one Mr. Jack Cabot, who was a disciple of Mr. Jack Crowley, James Crowley, the
Crowley?
Crowley. Sorry, yeah, the founder of the American Church of Satanism.
Well, Crowley is Alistair.
Oh, sorry,
Crowley.
Alistair, yeah. Disciple of his, you know, tried to summon Satan a couple times using black magic orgies. Yeah, L. Ron hung out there largely to fuck his girlfriend, which he did. He did very successfully. L. Ron Hubbard may not have been able to write romance scenes, but he did learn to fuck.
Well, I'm sure if he had tried to write something later in life after he'd actually had experiences, it would have been better than what we had as a teenager.
No, because it still would have involved a ginger, so it would have been disappointing. And pale. But in any
Anyways,
in any case,
this is wife number 2, yes?
he meets wife number 2 in this
but
whole
that-
mess.
but-
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually runs away with her, stealing her away from this cult after convincing Jackie Boy to buy him a boat. Now it's all under the guise that he's going to prep the boat for Jack, but ultimately it just turns into L. Ron fucking his girlfriend on the boat and then taking it. And then at the end of the day, it was just easier to let L. Ron have the boat. He loves boats.
So L. Ron Hubbard cons a cult, cons a sex cult, and
For a
helps someone
boat.
escape from it.
For a boat. For a boat and a
Because
side
that's not
piece.
ironic.
I'd like to point out he's still married.
Yeah, this is still
Yeah,
wife
this
number
is-
1.
He's still married, and his family is taking his parents and shit are taking care of his wife and,
And
2
2 kids.
children. 2 children at this
God.
point. Well, in these events, he meets the love of his life.
This is before the internet. It worked. It was easier back
Well,
then.
his love of the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second one lasted a whole lot less than the first one.
You know, supposedly second marriages don't last as long. Supposedly, I mean, I've always found marriage statistics dubious at best, but
I can see why that would be a thing. If you've already given up on one, the desire to need to make it through all the way to the end wouldn't be as intense because you've already set the precedent of, well, if this doesn't go well, we run into problems. I can always.
or it could be a
Quit.
thing of, well, you know, the first time it took this long to recognize the problems, I see it this time. You know, wisdom.
Yeah.
I mean, any number of reasons. I'm a firm believer in that there's no such thing as a bad divorce, just bad marriages.
well, it wasn't L. Ron that called it off. It was the wife. In all,
Well,
cases,
sort
wasn't
of.
it?
Sort of. He tried to claim that they were never actually married and tried to legally disown them without going through any legal channel and just claimed, no, we were never married. That was a lie. This is back when paperwork was literally paper and was in a file at the place you did it and nowhere else.
And if you bribe somebody to, say, drop that into the fireplace, whoops.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, if he was willing to bribe anyone,
Well,
tight-fisted motherfucker.
I'm sure he could be very convincing, as you've said before.
He basically talked his way out of that marriage, and again, that family got so lucky that they got to just walk out on L. Ron
I
Hubbard.
thought this was the one that he tried
No,
to
first,
claim.
no. Second wife is the one where
No, I
shit
thought
gets
that's who we were
interesting.
talking about.
Oh, well, that's just it. He's still married to the first
Okay,
one.
okay.
When he marries the second one,
Right.
there's a solid
Sorry.
year of overlap.
We
Actually
need
gets
to name
taken
them
to
like
court.
wife 1, wife 2, or you know, their actual names if we'd bothered to research them.
I did.
And
Well, gee, I was trying to throw you a bone, Alan, so you could sound smart.
I am sounding smart in that
Well.
I did my research for my video. You
I have note cards right here.
what are his wives' names?
The first one doesn't matter. The second one was
Oh, I did my research. Oh,
the first one genuinely doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Hubbard. That's an interesting name. Matter. What is that? Swedish?
Third one was Mary Sue Whip. I remember that. And the second one he kidnapped, which is the most interesting part of her story. Her name's not that interesting.
No. For the record, the first one was Margaret Polly Grubb. The second one
no one
is
cares.
second one is Sarah Northrop Hollister. And yes, you were right. Mary Sue Whip is the third wife.
Yeah, because I did my goddamn research.
You did
and
a
I
th-
remembered the
You
one
did
that
a third.
You
of
did
your
a third of the
research.
research.
because you two came to this with so many entertaining
Hey.
stories about the founder of the Church of Scientology.
I have my beer. I done my part.
Shit, his argument holds water.
I came with a phone with Wikipedia on it.
Technically, we all have that.
I
You're just the only
actually
one
have
willing
mine
to
out and ready to
actively
go.
use it.
I have note cards.
That's
Okay,
really
so
low tech.
Miss Northington
Northrop.
or Northrop.
Northrop.
Sorry, I got half of it right. That's better than you.
Not really.
No.
By about 20%. Well, 17.7.
In any case, he only has one child with his second wife, but this child is raised under unusual circumstances. This child is referred to as the world's first Dianetics baby.
Oh.
This can't be good.
No, it's not, because this is like the early days of Dianetics, because I believe the kid was born 47, 48 is when Dianetics seminars start like being a thing.
Dianetics is the whole thing of measuring your soul with the electrical.
The thetans and the e-meter, yeah, and about misfiled memories in the brain. Listen to our Scientology episode. It gets far more into what Dianetics actually is. But just as the brief overview, Dianetics baby means she was isolated from almost everyone in near total darkness and silence in order to avoid implanting negative emotions onto the child. And as we all know, when a child's neglected, they thrive.
Well, it doesn't matter what creature, animal, what level of sapience. Beings that are isolated from birth are not the most stable of creatures.
You seem to be suggesting that humans are social animals. And that was a well understood anthropological fact at the time. You seem to be speaking out against Dianetics.
Well, I mean, we live in
Alan,
herds,
Alan,
right?
I think he's a suppressive person.
we live in herds called cities, right?
That's not
Family
how those
groups?
words work. Are you having a stroke? Do you smell toast?
No, but I do smell cigarette.
Well, there's a cigarette, so that tracks.
I think I'm good then.
Far from it, but moving on. He announces that because of this marvelous feat, the child is both walking and talking at under a year. And I don't know how many of you...
I don't know how it couldn't have
Yeah.
learned the language if it never heard anyone speaking
What are you talking about? Fetuses pick up engrams all the time because of their incredible auditory acuity. Everyone knows this.
She heard
Yeah,
it through
Bill.
the walls?
Of the uterus, yeah.
Ow. Ow.
Oh yeah, no, this
Oh,
is
I
special
should've
kind
brought
of
some
stupid.
aspirin
This is
with
special
me.
kind of stupid, but I mean, it's the 1940s. Science is still 2/3 bullshit at this point in time.
And he was a Pulp Fiction writer, which means he's making it all up anyways.
Oh yeah,
so-
and that's the other thing. Like, people always
It's
question, like, how did a
science
fiction
fiction.
writer start a new psychology and science and religion?
because he wrote fiction.
Well, because at the time, science fiction had actually predicted a lot of technologies that came. So there was this kind
Well, yeah,
of...
Asimov was established, and a lot of the things he talked about early on were just now becoming actual real technology.
Oh yeah, no, things like submarines, splitting of the atom, air travel, all of it
Portable
was written
phones.
about before it was built. Well, not
cell
at this
phone-
point.
not
but-
cell phones, but the Army had the portable backpack phones and stuff. Some of that technology was starting to become a thing. Science fiction
So, I mean,
became
there's-
science fact.
There is a bit of
In
fuel
some
to this
cases.
fire. There's a reason it caught on. And while he's raising this child with Miss Sarah Northrup, he launches Dianetics as a new science.
Was she all into it? Like,
At
that
first.
seems like a
At
really
first, she was with him.
odd thing for a mother to agree to.
It's kind of hazy as to exactly when she turned on him, but my running theory is when she started to notice her daughter wasn't quite right and was just objectively being neglected. I think that's when she started to turn.
Okay.
But there was definitely like a good 2.5, 3 year period where she was right there with him, and then there was just this weird period of unhappiness. And the way she actually left him, the guy she left him for, it's weird too, because it was a Dianeticist, a younger, better-looking Dianeticist that Hubbard introduced them to, because Hubbard had to go on a double date with his mistress, and
He
that
was
was
at
the mistress's
least
plus
better
one, and that's
than-
how they met.
He was at least better than Hubbard.
Well, I mean, Hubbard's a low bar. Ginger. I mean,
For someone with your DNA, you sure do rag on gingers a
well,
lot.
that's because I'm a daywalker, the superior breed. It's not my fault.
Be happy Mark's not here yet.
Ah, he's one of the good ones, as Archie Bunker would say.
Anyways, this has gotten really racist against ourselves, but still.
Well, we're in the late 40s, early 50s. What do you expect?
We're in 2019.
Yeah.
The garage isn't a time machine?
No.
I haven't written way back on the side yet.
Just remember to use a backward Z, otherwise it won't
Oh,
work.
of course. I'm still working on my cardboard box.
So, in the midst of all this, Dianetics takes off. It's a huge success. And from this point on, L. Ron Hubbard personally never has to worry about money again. Dianetics, after its initial publishing as a introductory article, gets its own standalone publication, and it's almost instantly a bestseller. It secures the rest of the insanity that he goes through.
That, and I'm pretty sure at this point he's starting to get investors and things like that. Now that Dianetics is taken off.
Well,
'Cause I know later on he gets a lot of investors that allow him to just keep going.
Well, that's just it. Most of that money goes like directly into his pocket, and the real funny thing is he overhires for his blooming organizations, and ultimately decides not to pay any of them, like most good grifters.
Nice.
Oh yeah, no, dude made a way to like print money and then just kept all of it.
So what exactly was the incentive there with him not paying them?
I really don't know.
The benefits of Dianetics?
I have no idea. Like what? It's also important to note that there was an ebb and flow to it. Before it came back as Scientology, Dianetics faded out, and it was basically just his faithful that went on with him. So as we get into the 50s, his wife is sick of him. She's wanted to leave him, even though they're like properly estranged for a while now. But of course, he can't allow that because he's head of the church, and obviously he can't. If he leaves her, he can't just let her take the first Dianetics baby with her.
I thought before the church and everything there was Sea Org.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, church is
church
before
actually
Sea Org.
Comes first. Okay.
Church comes before by a fair amount.
Okay.
I mean, not in like the legal sense of church, but in L. Ron's heart, it's a church.
At this point, I think it would be classified as a cult.
Well, actually, no. At this point, he's still toting it as a science.
Right.
Yeah, no.
It's a scientific philosophy.
This is when he's riding the science angle hard, and for the time, it's actually a lot of repackaging of psychotherapy, but obviously it breaks down on quite a few levels. Again, Scientology episode. In 51, in order to get his wife to leave him but still be able to keep the world's first Dianetics baby, he kidnaps said Dianetics baby. His baby. 1951.
Well, it's shown that most times when children are kidnapped,
it's one of the parents. Yeah. I don't think that was the trend at this point in history. At least I hope it wasn't.
Maybe it kicked off the trend. Anyways, so, okay, he kidnaps the girl who's been upraised in complete isolation.
And he doesn't even, like, kidnap her right away. He does it, like, in degrees. Like, first he has her taken to Cuba, where she's just left with, like, servants and a nanny for, like, 2 months. And then she comes to him on his boat. I believe it's still the Black Magic sex boat. I think. I'm not sure. Pretty sure, though.
He hasn't gotten other boats yet?
I actually couldn't find great numbers for when his flotilla is formed, but I do have a firm number for when Sea Org sets out.
He must have been adding boats through this time using the Dianetics money.
I want to say at this point he had 2 small boats.
Okay.
But in any case, after a few months, brings the child to him. So you would think immediately after kidnapping the child, he would contact the mother. What would you do, Alan?
Well, I wouldn't be kidnapping my kid.
That ship has sailed. Ship has sailed.
Okay.
You've kidnapped
For
your
a
own
moment,
child.
Put yourself into the insane brain.
You have kidnapped your own 4-year-old.
What is and my goal is just to keep the 4-year-old?
Pretty much. I mean, you don't really care, but
I would
It's
imagine if I'm trying to keep the 4-year-old, I would just keep the 4-year-old. At this point, I presumably don't give a shit about the kid's mother, so I just
so you're
ignore her.
saying you would not kidnap the child's mother as well?
Well, if I actually do want the kid's mother around, then that would be my next step. It would
complete
lure her in.
It would complete the image that
To
you're a
complete the kidnapping.
consistent family, but
Oh
If
no
that
no
is the
no
goal.
no no! You're not
that-
bringing
yeah.
them to your location.
May I? He's already shown with his first wife that he doesn't care about the wife. The kid is only proof.
He had 2
that-
kids with the first one.
But the kids with the first one don't prove his theory of Dianetics. This one does. It is valuable to him from the sense that it supports the theory that he is putting out there. This supports the amount of support and money he can get and proves Dianetics real. So realistically, no, you don't get a hold of the mother. You take the kid and use it to further your means. You're not trying to get a ransom. You're not trying to get anything else out of the mother. You just want the child to prove your word is good. So no, of course you don't get a hold of the mother.
Yeah, no, he kidnaps the mother and sends her to Cuba as well, but not at the same time as when the child's there. So there's not even like a
separate,
Dutch door thing going here.
There has to be some sort of benefit to having the mother around.
I would
there is.
imagine it's an image thing, keeping up the
keeping up
appearances.
the image
Sort
of
of,
a full
sort
family.
of. It's
possibly.
largely that he couldn't afford to have her blabbing about how awful he was as a human being, so he got her
Yeah,
to.
protecting
He got
his
her
rep.
to issue a public letter saying that she had impeded his work and that she just wanted to get away from it all and return to a normal life, and that she understands that by taking her daughter that they are formally, disavowing him. And
Wasn't this the thing he like had himself declared clinically sane before he did
Yes.
it?
Preemptively,
Yep.
yes.
Preemptively, he had himself.
Yeah.
declared
It took him a while
sane,
too.
yes.
It took him a while too. The first time they tried, they actually couldn't find a therapist in like the greater LA area that would just take money to be like, yeah. And then later on, as like a side thing, they found a therapist, and the therapist just gave a, well, you're not awful opinion, just thing of like,
Now,
well, you're
there is
okay,
a-
you're stressed, but you're
not
okay.
insane.
Exactly.
There is a point there. He didn't go somewhere, have himself checked out, and have himself declared sane. He immediately tried to bribe someone to declare himself sane. Meaning he wasn't confident he could pass.
He had a deep mistrust of therapists. He felt that anyone in the psychology profession actually warped reality to get people to suit their wants and needs.
Funny,
Scientology to
considering
this
what
day
he-
has a deep hatred of psychology.
Funny considering what he himself did.
Well, that's just it. Like, the benefit to early Dianetics, it was you were sitting down and talking about your feelings in a point in time where certain members of the populace weren't allowed to have feelings, and those that were allowed to have feelings were told to shut the fuck up.
And get back in the kitchen. Yeah.
In any case, after delivering a letter that was most certainly written by L. Ron Hubbard,
Yeah.
it used a word that he invented, so it was definitely
What was
written
that?
by him.
What was that word again?
Interbulating, I believe is what it is.
Interbulating.
Interbulating.
What is the
That's
definition
right, I
of
forgot. He made up
interbulating?
words all the time.
I believe it means to be drawn into a turbulent situation. I believe it's trying to like condense a metaphor into a single word, which, as far as I know, is not a function of the English language.
No, but it is
Yeah.
a function of
We'll have to ask
few
Chuck.
Asiatic languages.
Stop giving him credit. He learned nothing from the Chinese.
No, but I mean, you speak enough Japanese to know that it is a thing that happens.
Yeah, no, there is always overlap from languages. In any case, we digress. So ultimately, Miss Northrup signs the agreement, gets her daughter back. They have nothing to do with L. Ron Hubbard from this point on, except for the fact that their lives are forever haunted by people trying to get stories on what L. Ron Hubbard is like. I can only imagine what happened to that poor little girl.
Yeah.
To my understanding, she's still alive, and I do have some respect for the privacy of these individuals because, to be quite frank, all of his surviving children hate the man and his legacy. Some actively work against the church.
Yeah.
It,
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and the stories she would be horrifying in the least.
yeah, no. I believe it's best to let sleeping dogs lie on that.
Yeah.
So, what do you say we move on to a happier time in Mr. Hubbard's life?
Let's see. Does this mean sailing on the open seas?
No, it means receiving academic praise from a degree mill. Because they existed before online universities.
A degree mill?
Oh, you've never heard of degree mills?
Not by that term.
It basically just you pay a set amount of money for a set amount of time. No one actually back checks anything to see if you did any work, and at the end of it, here you're a doctor or you're an engineer.
This is why
or-
he's practically a doctor.
Yeah. He gets a fake degree from Sequoia University. I believe it's still open. I believe this still
Sequoia
exists.
is still one of the ones that operates. Yes.
To my understanding, it's like a community college now, is like actually a real school, but at the time of its founding was not. Which, look into your like local alma maters in your hometowns. Like seriously,
Some of them have some really
the
cool histories.
Oh yeah, no, the history on some of them are just fucking hilarious. It's like, wow, and we kept this. So he finally has a degree. It's a real degree in the legal sense, but it's a fake degree in the meaningful sense.
What's the
Right.
degree in?
I'm a hack and a fraud and didn't bother to look into it. I don't think it mattered because L. Ron Hubbard was still saying he was a chemist and nuclear physicist and an engineer, and he never finished college the
Well, it
first
could
time.
have been in any one of those. That's
also-
why I was asking.
Also, I believe this is around the time he started calling himself Commodore. I
Yeah,
believe
he
this
had
is.
built
I
his
believe this
flotilla
is the
up.
rise of Commodore. No, I believe he still only had 2 boats at this point. The real buildup
That's
of
enough.
the
2
flotilla.
is enough.
Technically, 2 is enough.
I think he was doing it when he only had 1 though. Like I think he just thought that was a cool name.
Yeah.
The Commodore.
Seriously, you wouldn't come up with a cool name like that? I mean, I'm not saying you would
you've
choose
worked,
Commodore.
You've worked with Slate
but
Rockefeller.
Exactly.
Yeah, say. He
I think you
is
can
Commodore.
understand that ego.
Later this year, D&D and why you shouldn't play it.
At least with you.
God. That would make a great session.
And shortly thereafter, 1954 rolls around, and this is the point where L. Ron Hubbard stops referring to Dianetics as a science altogether. This is where whole hog he is going with religion. It is not Scientology quite yet.
Has he brought in aliens yet?
Kind of, sort of. This is when he's writing the OT3 stuff, the South Park stuff, the Lord Xenu shit. And even then, as he came up with it, it was introduced bit by bit, gradually.
Only to the most
Basically,
dedicated people, and this is where you start getting the informational cell separation, where certain people have more information about it, and you're just told, "Oh no, believe us, it's true."
this is when L. Ron Hubbard starts really amassing money for his ultimate goal of buying his own navy. This is where he's going around and lecturing anywhere someone will give him a buck to do it. He's opening up any number of Dianetics centers in order to try and funnel in more money. And after 13 years of successfully bilking people out of their money and not paying taxes this entire time, which, by the way, the IRS is very, very curious about.
Curious or upset?
Yeah, little of column A, little of column B. It's okay. L. Ron has a plan. He's going to go where the IRS can't reach him.
The realm
The
of
sea. There's no law in international
Okay,
waters.
but we haven't gotten to the religious tax credits yet.
Oh no,
that comes later.
that doesn't happen until 93.
Okay. The point is, though, it does happen. And
That doesn't happen until after he is chased off of the continent of Australia. Yeah, no, but
okay, we'll get to that.
yeah, no, but in 1967, he launches with 3 ships, Sea Org.
Sea Org.
Yep, embarking out on an 8-year voyage of discovery, tax fraud, and human rights violations.
And searching for gold, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely searching for gold. So much gold. This time it wasn't pirate gold. It was gold that L. Ron himself hid in his previous lives. Because this is at the point where previous lives start playing real big into shit.
What, was one of them a pirate?
Well, I mean, you know, he's a couple thousand years old. I mean, he had been to heaven more than once. So I mean the dude knew some shit.
That's right. He claimed to have experienced
He was clear.
heaven.
He had full knowledge of all of his past lives. Hello.
I forgot that he had claimed to have been
Operating
to heaven
feet
and
in 0. Come on,
experienced it.
man.
How many did he say he had?
Oh,
Did he say?
infinite. If there was a
yeah.
finite number, I never found it, but he just always pulled a new one out of his. My favorite story of L. Ron Hubbard past lives, he was a drag racer in an alien civilization that was similar to American
that's the
culture
thing is-
in like the 50s.
A lot of his
Hang on,
past
hang on,
lives
hang on.
were alien past
Hang on,
lives.
hang on. Oh, the vast majority of them were. All of ours were, really. But he started setting records as the Green Dragon or some shit, and then died on the track, and then came back as the Blue something or other, and smashed his records again, and then did it again as another primary color with an animal, and then realized that he was just beating his own record and that there was just nothing in it anymore, so he moved on. Just a stupid shit.
Yeah.
Sounds like the writings of a Pulp Fiction writer.
Gee.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
Shocking.
This is why I had to eat that.
All right.
This is why I had to, people. I didn't have a choice.
All right, so Sea Org. There's so much we could touch on, but let's hit the highlights.
Well, from the start, because people signed multi-year contracts, and many of them were husband and wives, that meant that there were children. So there was a daycare on Sea Org.
Which I'm sure followed the Dianetic plan of isolating them.
No.
Were they at least isolated together, or were they like in their
Oh
own
no, they
little
were. They were
cells?
together. They were together.
Okay.
No,
Just no adults were allowed to see them.
Absolutely none. And their day was very strictly regimented into scheduled chore, study, and playtime. And if you interfered with children during any of these set time periods, even playtime, you got punished. The child is an innocent. It is a child. You shall not impede them. You will not place your engrams in them. But yeah, no. What I feel is great is the daycare itself, though. Alan, if you could envision the perfect daycare, what would yours involve?
Oh, Alan, did you
Well,
ever
all right.
do daycare when you were growing up?
Hold on.
Because I know
No.
Nick hasn't.
I never
I
did.
I did.
was actually.
never
No, I
had
did.
daycare.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I was
But-
the latchkey kid first few years.
I wasn't considering latchkey. I was thinking even
Yeah,
earlier.
it's
than
all the
that.
same.
But
no,
yeah.
my mother didn't have a job when I was younger, so my mom was always just home. But, well,
A completely untainted view. What do you imagine when you think
all right,
daycare?
all right, now okay. Counter question. What do you mean by perfect daycare? From the kid's perspective or the parent's perspective?
Does yours involve a fully stocked bar? L.
'Cause
Ron
theirs
Hubbard's
did.
did.
Stocked with alcohol?
Oh yeah,
A bar.
yeah.
Bar?
Yeah,
Alcohol.
it was the bar on the flagship, to my understanding, and they just sealed the kids in there every day, all day. That was like
just
their
with
classroom
open
and their
booze?
playroom. Well, I mean, I don't know if they were
I'm sure
sealed
it was
or not, but
behind
there
the
was
bar, but
They were in the bar by themselves.
right. They could do whatever they wanted.
Yeah, well,
They-
that was my point. Was it's
Yeah.
not, there wasn't like a locked liquor cupboard.
I'm
they couldn't
sure
get
there were
in
I
drunk
from.
don't. I
children.
have a hard time believing
I
there was a
doubt it.
lock outside of anywhere but the chain
I
locker.
mean, I ask. I mean, given the man, I assume no. The bottles were all just sitting out on the counter.
I'm sure some of those children are
See, that's-
still
that's-
alive.
that's the
and-
other
with
reason that I
recipe
get-
cards
that's the
on how
other
to fix
reason-
each drink.
That's the other reason that I get the feeling like just hard drinking the entire time through this. Like, I just have such a hard time picturing a sober man weaving these tales. I don't want to believe that, like, L. Ron Hubbard clearly halfway believed his own stories.
So you definitely think he was a booze hound, not coke or something else?
There, well, okay,
Possibly
he was definitely
later. This was before the big coke.
he was definitely on painkillers. Loved him some painkillers.
Could have been amphetamine. Could have been morphine at the
I have
time.
a feeling it's downers. I got a feeling it's got to be like your morphine, codeine type shit. I get the feeling it's
morphine
got to
and
be
codeine
downers.
were real popular
Yeah.
at the time when he was growing up and going through everything. So yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah, no, but
Anyways, so daycare in the bar, kids free to do whatever they want. I'm sure there were drunk children.
oh, I'm sure there were too. What's even more terrifying is that if the children messed up like during their chores, there's an absolutely chilling story, and there's no documentation of this. This is what we get from
Just
someone
word
who
of
was
mouth.
there.
There, yeah.
I'm inclined to believe it. It's horrifying. And I am just going to say, for those who have a hard time hearing about children suffering, this next bit is going to be hard for you.
You might want to stick your fingers in and go la 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 for a few minutes.
Because a 4-year-old tripped over a line on the deck and did not perform their duty adequately in L. Ron Hubbard's eyes, he had a 4-year-old thrown in the chain locker, which is just where they store ropes and chains. There's no light. It's cold. It's wet. It stinks. He was fed in a bucket for 2 days with no one speaking to him. No one changing him. This is a 4-year-old. He was not let out to use the bathroom, so he just had to soil himself in there. The nightmares that child had, and I'm sure continued to have into adulthood, are unspeakable. The fact that anyone stayed on after that happened is why I view Scientology as monstrous.
Yeah.
Hurting a child is a special kind of wrong.
I mean, I've heard stories, stuff that comes from later in the organization. Well, after he died, they're just equally, if not worse, stories.
I've heard some of the things from his successor, and I'm willing to say worse person.
Yeah.
But I think net not as bad of effect. Like, I think L. Ron Hubbard did more damage, but
he established all that stuff. The current guy just keeps it going. And there's fewer people. There are fewer people these days in the organization. So.
Episode. Let's not get into that here.
Yeah. On a slightly lighter note of punishment, though, L. Ron Hubbard's wrath wasn't just reserved for children. At one point, he actually put one of the boats in doubt. Not its crew. The boat.
What?
The boat was in trouble.
He punished his boat.
Yes.
How and for what?
Because now I forget whether this was because they hit a rubbing strake when they went into port. I don't know. It's a fucking boat part. Don't ask me. That's what the story fucking says. Rubbing strake. I don't know. I don't fucking know.
Somehow they damaged the boat.
A minor stupid thing that's easily fixed, but like all the other sailors in port laughed, and L. Ron Hubbard doesn't like being laughed at.
Yeah.
Or it was when he rendezvoused with another ship in the middle of the night, and they had anchored for the night because that's, a lot fucking safer. And he was just pissed off that they weren't, all hands on deck and like being a boat. But he got mad at them. No one on board was allowed to bathe or change their clothes for like 3 months. They did not get fresh food. They got like scraps and shit.
The hell?
Yep. And in this time period, while this crew is just stuck there on this boat, because they're all in trouble tangentially. Like, none of them specifically are in trouble. The boat is what's in trouble.
This seems like just a really out of the way to
it seems like
crew.
Seems like the ramblings of a crazy man, doesn't it?
Well, that's been assumed the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in this time, they scrub down the boat, they repair it, they repaint it, they go stem to stern, soup to nuts, and at the end of it all, L. Ron Hubbard agrees to reappraise their condition, inspect the boat, and as a reward, he declares it the nicest in the fleet and makes it his new flagship, and everyone's rewarded.
Oh, God.
With showers and a change of clothes, because he's so magnanimous. And just to, what do you guys think a crewman on SS Sea Org vessel here makes a day?
Oh, nothing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely nothing.
How much do you think they take home in a week?
How
much do you think they take home in a week?
Well,
because bear in mind, if they get nothing, it's slavery.
This is the late 60s, right? Or are we into the 70s yet?
Late 60s into the early 70s.
Okay, I believe at the time on land in America, the standard minimum wage was somewhere around the $5 or $6 point.
No.
That sounds really high. I'm pretty sure.
All right,
was it?
The minimum wage hit like 5 something while I was working at a grocery store when I was in like high school and college.
You have to remember, Michigan state minimum has been higher for a very long time
Then it was probably a couple of dollars.
The state minimum where we are is like $2 better than the federal. Yeah.
Okay, so it was probably closer to $2 or $3 an hour officially.
Okay, well, they weren't paid hourly. They made $10 a week. Because if you give them $10 a week, it's not slavery. Anyone care to hazard about how much L. Ron was taking home a week?
All of it?
Anybody?
Couple million.
At
100,000.
least,
I'll go hundreds of
so-
at
thousands.
least
so
in the
as-
5
Six
digits.
figures. 6 figures.
So as we've had a rogue ginger walk in, and we're talking about the
God.
grandfather of all the worst gingers, Mark. How much do you think L. Ron made in a week? L. Ron Hubbard. How much do you think he made in a week?
I really have no idea.
About $15,000 a week. And this entire time, he was claiming that he made
5
nothing from the
digits.
church. Yeah, no, he claimed that
Yeah,
all the money.
I would love 5,000. Not this guy was making 15.
Yeah.
He claimed all of the money went back into running the church. It did not. It didn't even go into ship maintenance.
Yeah. And this is back in the day when $15,000 was a lot more money.
I believe
day.
once it's adjusted for inflation, it's actually a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
I've
all right, that
seen
makes
I've seen
more
the number.
sense.
I forget where it was in my research, but one of the websites I went on when they were talking about like what the church was bringing in at that point, what the church overall, like before operational costs and before Sea Org costs and all that, they were making like a couple million a year, like no issue. Yeah, no, Sea Org is just it's fucking insane. This is when L. Ron Hubbard also discovered his favorite means of punishment ever. Anyone care to hazard a guess? You're at sea, you're pissed off at somebody, what do you do to get even? You can't shoot them.
You dump pig's blood over the side of the boat and you shove them off the plank. Pirate style.
You are so much closer
Dunking
than
them
you
in the water. Dunking them in the water in some fashion. I would
throwing
imagine.
them overboard.
Yeah.
Yep.
Full-on pirate style, just womp.
No, we've already established he wanted to be a pirate and was probably claiming to be a pirate in his last life.
It started by accident. They were coming into port. A new crewman, some Swiss dude, didn't speak English great, and predominantly English-speaking crew. Cleat doesn't get lined up right. Line goes tight. Rips a cleat out. Pain in the ass. Repairable. It's not the end of the world. L. Ron Hubbard loses his shit, orders them to throw him overboard, and bear in mind, he's functionally having him being thrown off of something like the height of a cruise ship. Like this is a big motherfucking boat.
Are they still close to port, or are
They
they
are
out
in port.
Okay,
They are in port. This
at
is
least
at
he's
the dock.
close enough that he can swim to land. But
there's
horrible.
there's people who like actual sailors who witnessed this and then talked about it later. It's like we had never seen anything like this shit before. L. Ron Hubbard just loses it, screams, "Throw that man over!" You don't question L. Ron motherfucking Hubbard.
Right.
So lift it up, throw him over, and from that day forward, that was like his favorite thing. Although not before like 5 minutes of everyone being like, "Oh God, did he hit the water wrong? Did he drown? Oh God, did he hit the rubbing strake? Did he die? Oh God, oh God." He didn't know how to swim. He did live. They did get him out. It's
I'm
as
sure
okay
one of the
as
people
things
who
can
saw
be.
this was like, "What the hell? Get that! Go rescue him!"
Well, it's important to note over the course of like Sea Org's journey, he had gotten kicked out of multiple countries.
Like full on
He bought the Sea Org boats in the UK. Could not get approval by the British government because the ships were not in ship shape, as it were. Ends up registering them out of Sierra Leone. Think about that.
That's just a wonderful sign. Oh, were your ships for? Well, they're registered out of Sierra Leone.
That's how they got them out to port and to sea. That is how
So,
this all started.
how kicked out are
he-
we talking? Like the military will shoot him if he comes
if he
in?
returns, he will be arrested. And again, it's a tax dodge thing because of the church.
Oh, okay, tax dodge thing.
France wants him for similar reasons. There's a couple spots up and down the African coast where, for very similar reasons, Australia chased him out because they flat out called it out as a cult. and this is the one time I'm going to say this ever in my life, thank you, Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch had a huge role in getting Scientology out of Australia. Like, he had sent people in to get exposés on them. News organizations that he owned absolutely cracked the whip on Scientology.
When was this?
I want to say this was early 70s.
Probably
Sea
earlier,
Org came ashore
mid-70s.
in 75. They came ashore in
Okay.
Florida. Because we need another reason to wall off that fucking state.
And coming ashore was the end of Sea Org.
Kind of, sort of. Like, the church
I know
claims
they
Sea
still
Org's
have-
not a thing, but they definitely
They
still have boats.
But yeah.
They've also infiltrated the Coast Guard, but again, that's Scientology episode, guys.
Different
Layers.
talk.
Layers.
Okay, so back to Sea Org, unless we're finished with that.
Well, just my last thing here about Australia and Rupert Murdoch here. The reason that the world really started taking a truly negative stance towards Scientology, because up until this point, it was just sort of like this benign thing. It was like a lump that you should get checked, but you were sure wasn't cancer. Like, that Rupert Murdoch was the doctor being like, no, this shit's malignant. Like, we need to deal with it. That's the only time I'm ever going to be nice to Rupert Murdoch. That's it. That's it. You did one good thing. Beyond that, you're a cunt. And for anyone mad at me for saying that word, he's Australian. Get over it.
Okay, so then the next major thing would be the coming ashore in 75.
Was
there a reason stated for that? Or was he just tired of being on a boat and wanted to do more inland?
The excuse he gave was that his wife called him back to shore saying that she needed him. And it is...
This would be ex-wife at this point, or
No,
number three?
this is number three.
Because we haven't touched on that at
he
all.
married
When
number
did
he
that
married
happen?
number 3 in 52, 1 year after the divorce from his second wife. There was no overlap here. He actually followed the writ of the law, shockingly, while on the run from almost every other law.
Well, and that was when he was putting together his flotilla.
That was like
Before. He had
she
a
was
couple
there.
of
She was
boats.
there for all of it. She was there
Okay.
pre-Sea Org. She was with him till the day he died.
Okay.
This is the true love of his life, and you know, there is a true lesson to be taken from all
There's
of
someone
this.
for everyone.
No matter how much of a horrifying, degenerate monster you are, someone will love you.
Well, hell, look at Eva Braun.
That was exactly what I was thinking.
Stalin's second wife? When she died, he said all joy left him.
I think he had a misunderstanding of the concept of joy.
No, there just weren't enough orange peels for him to throw at people.
Anyways.
Stalin's a different discussion that I could sink my teeth into equally.
Anyways.
From here on out, L. Ron Hubbard has another 11 years from this point. But to be quite frank,
Well, this is where he formed the church.
no.
No.
The church has been in extant since.
Well, yeah, since before Sea Org was when he
56?
was forming it. But I'm talking about at the point where it became official and major
still
people
not
started
even
joining
not till
and-
after he's dead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, the
For
church
some
doesn't
reason,
gain
I
tax
thought
exempt status till
for
after
some
he's
reason
dead.
I thought that
No,
happened before he died.
the simple fact of the matter is, although L. Ron Hubbard has 10 more years of gas in the tank, this is the fumes on the tank. This is him coasting. What is left is him being carried by the church.
Any highlights?
Well, they should have already heard the highlights in our Scientology
Well, I
episode.
meant in his last 10.
Because
Anything particularly noteworthy in his last decade?
I'll
take that
he
as a
became
no.
he became a recording superstar.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yes,
That's
the
right.
music.
Ladies and
Yes.
gentlemen, I give you thank you for listening. And then we'll cut it.
hearing this may find things they would argue. I do not sing what I believe, I only give them fact. If they believe quite otherwise, they still will have impact. Truth is truth, and if they then decide to live with lies, that's their concern, not mine, my friend. They're free to fantasize.
All right.
So
that was brilliant. I actually got to give him props musically. I hate the lyrics, but it's jammy as hell.
No comment.
Well, gentlemen,
It was kitschy. I enjoyed.
did we learn anything?
I think we
L.
learned
Ron Hubbard
quite
is more
a bit.
horrible human being than my initial impression.
Yeah,
Respectable in a way, though.
he never.
He was a
stopped-
monster, but he was a monster who succeeded at everything he
Yeah,
attempted.
he was good at being a gigantic shitbag. He successfully
I have a
shitbagged.
certain level of respect for someone who has a dream and wills it alive.
He never stopped. He never backed down, and he held to his convictions. They were horrible, but
Yep.
there is a certain amount of respect to be held for a man who doesn't stop, doesn't back down, and holds to his convictions. Just try to get better convictions.
Do you know what I learned? That edible wasn't strong enough.
Yeah, and I should have picked up more beer.
Well, folks, I hope you're informed. I think we're all confused. Any parting words?
You threw a couple of pussies. I did that whole thing completely sober.
You're a braver man than we.
You're exactly the person that L. Ron Hubbard would have recruited.
No.
My mind's too pliable. You can't manipulate mush.
I've done too many hallucinogenics. Anyways, I
listen to
think
the
it's
lyrics.
about time to
Go ahead.
call this and
Kill it. We're done.
have a good one, folks.
Done.
Next time on Informed and Confused.
It's inserting horrific things into her mind. That's brain rape.
Oh, the Americans like him, eh?
All right. If Bill is the new canon, Ben is Legends, that makes you the holiday special.